everyone, this is Joseph Mendoes with another video for virtualsheetmusic.com. So today I'd like to talk about the bow, actually, how much you should be tightening your bow. So this is a question that I get quite a bit from students who have just started with me. In fact, sometimes the very first day, one of the questions they have is how much should I be tightening the bow? And this is something that, well, your own personal answer to this will evolve over time according to your personal taste, because there is some difference between tightening the bow quite a bit more and tightening the bow a little bit less. But the basic answer is this, is that you want to tighten the bow just enough so that the middle of the bow, well, not the exact middle part, but the part of the bow that dips down the lowest is not going to be touching the strings when you're playing at your loudest. So the best way to test this is to just kind of tighten your bow to some point, and I guess I'll start with this too, is that some players, beginners in particular, get confused that they think the bow, when you tighten it, the bow should be kind of straight, and then it shouldn't have this kind of gentle inward curve. I don't know if you can see that curve. Here, maybe if I push it over here, you can kind of see it on the wall background there. You see it has a gentle inward curve there. This is a bow that is tightened correctly. At least my bow, I feel like, is tightened correctly with that kind of gentle inward curve. If the bow is straight, or even worse, if the bow is bent outwards like that, then we're in trouble. That's a bow that can break, actually. So you want to be sure to never tighten it so that it's exactly straight, or in particular bent the other way. It should have this kind of gentle curve that way, inward curve. So then the question is how much. So if I take my bow and I loosen it quite a bit, but I still make it so that there's a little bit of space between the hair and the stick, and I play, I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up on the microphone, but you'll hear a little bit of raspiness in the sound, and that's from the wood of the bow actually touching the string itself. Now, this sound obviously is not desirable, but on top of that, the hair can actually, the wood can actually pinch the hair between the wood and the string. And so this can cause the hair to break. So for example, if you have a bow and you've been playing and it seems like that the hair is breaking quite a bit, and in particular it's breaking kind of somewhere in the middle where you have a strand here and a strand here, that's because the bow itself, the wood of the bow, is pinching the hair between the wood and the string. So this is not necessarily from playing that is too aggressive or kind of you're really passionate or something. It has to do with the fact that just with how much pressure you're using, you need to tighten the bow a little bit more. So then here's just a really handy test. If you just tighten your bow to some amount, like I said, not so that it's straight or bent out or anything, but just some amount, and then put the bow on the D string, right about at the spot that you can just you just eyeball it and see, okay, it's about there for me is where the bow, I think, is at its lowest point, where the curve is kind of at its lowest point. And then you press down with your index finger, using this motion here, and you press down a bit. How easily does it go down? This is going to depend on how strong your stick is, how flexible your stick is, things like that. But if it goes down really easily, then probably you're going to need to tighten your bow more. If the bow is really tight, I'll make my bow really tight. You can see now it's curved a little bit less there. Now if I try to press down, now I can't really get the stick, just barely I can get the stick to touch the bottom there. That's probably going to be too tight. You're never going to be using that much pressure when you're playing cello, at least if you're playing properly. You're never going to be using that much force. So it's really, that's why it's kind of a personal thing. It also has to do with your bow mechanic as well, in terms of how you're getting torque, how you're actually able to apply torque. If you can't apply that much torque, then actually you're not going to notice anything too bad if your bow is not tight enough, because you won't be able to press it all the way down. So as you can see, there's some factors here, but that's the most important. The most important thing is that it's not so tight that it's straight, or even worse, bent outward. It should be bent inward the way it is here. And also it can't be too loose that the hair starts getting pinched between the string and the bow itself, the wood of the bow, so that either we're getting that kind of sound where the wood is touching the string instead of something more pure. I'll kind of give a difference there. This is kind of the more pure sound, and then that's the wood grating sound, and not sure if it's picking up there, but anyway, you get the idea. Now, when it comes to, I think, more advanced, when you're getting more advanced, there's going to be kind of a decision at some point you're going to have to make, and actually you may do this a little bit differently every day depending on just how you're playing. If you don't tighten the bow as much, then what you feel, at least what most players generally feel, is that the hair kind of almost grips the string just a little bit differently. It's very subtle, but the hair kind of catches the string a little bit more. It kind of glues to the string a little bit better, sticks to the string a little bit better. But then, of course, since the bow bottoms out a little bit easier, you have to play a little bit more lyrically. And then, conversely, if the bow is really, really tight, but again, not straight or not bent the wrong way or anything like that, you can play pretty aggressively. Actually, you really can kind of hammer away at the instrument, and some players really like that. So you kind of want to experiment within that range of those two different styles, of having the bow hair feel a little bit on the loose side and having the bow hair feel a little bit on the tight side. Now, this is a very small difference. Like if we were to measure this difference between the bottom of where the bow bends here to the bow hair, when it's a little bit looser, it's maybe like a millimeter or two closer to the hair, or if it's a little bit tighter, it's a millimeter or two further away from the hair. We're not talking about a huge difference. So the first thing is to make sure that your bow hair is tight enough again so that it's not bottoming out on you and you're not getting that wood kind of sound where the wood is touching the string, or even worse than that, you start breaking hairs because the wood and the string are pinching the hair in that particular spot. And also you don't want it to be too tight so that the bow is either completely straight or bent out. And then for advanced players, deciding within that range where you feel the most comfortable is really the most important thing. I think that's it for the bow tightening thing. Oh, and also one more thing. Some people's bows have a little bit of an awkward bend to them. They're bent. Of course, they're bent this way, right? As all bows are. But also they're bent off to the side a little bit, and towards. Like if I were to hold the bow this way, it's bent towards the player, towards myself a little bit. Now, this is going to make it so that you do have to tighten your bow probably a little bit more than average, because when the bow is also bent that way, it means that, first of all, the bow wasn't made all that well, because the bow's not supposed to bend that direction. It's supposed to be really just dead straight. If you kind of are looking down the barrel at it, it should be dead straight. But that weakens the bow when the bow is bent in that direction towards you. If you're kind of holding it like this and it's bent towards you, that weakens the bow quite a bit. So if you have a bow like that, first of all, you might want to consider getting a new bow. But second of all, you may have to tighten it a little bit more than I'm recommending to counteract that effect, because you're going to be losing quite a bit of power if your bow is bent in that direction. And I think that is everything. So if you have any questions, comments, leave them on the virtualsheetmusic.com website where this video is, or on the Joseph Mendoes expert page there on VSM, the VSM website. I think I have one opening right now for lessons. So if anybody would like to have lessons, particularly if you're looking for an every other week situation, that's the opening, is I have an every other week opening. So, and also if you're interested as well, if you would like a shorter lesson, 30-minute lessons, I'm offering those as well on a limited basis. So if you're interested, just go ahead and contact me through my website, cellojunkie.com. So that's it. I hope I covered that subject okay, and I'll see you next time.